This Week in Startups is brought to you by InVision. Get InVision for startups with unlimited users on the full suite of InVision tools, plus enterprise-level security and support at invision.com/twist. That's INVISION.com/twist. Squarespace. Turn your idea into a new website. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And Calm. Seize the day, sleep the night with the help of Calm, the #1 app for sleep. This Week in Startups listeners get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/twist. That's CALM.com/twist. Upcoming launch events. Apply for our next Founder University September 9th and 10th in San Francisco at founder.university. And get your free Founder Pass for Launch Scale in San Francisco October 7th and 8th at launchscale.net/tickets.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis, and it's our News Roundtable. You've been begging us to do a News Roundtable. We've been doing all these great interviews and other podcasts. But I decided we would get back to News Roundtable time. Zach Coelius is with us again. How are you doing, Zach?
Awesome. Happy to be here.
New fund? What's going on? Any announcements?
No, I haven't announced it yet.
Haven't announced anything?
It is there, and it's a lot of money to spend now.
Oh,
yeah, it's not announced.
Not announced, so I just announced it for you.
If
there was one,
I mean, people know I have it. I just haven't announced it.
Officially announced it. But you're an angel investor. You have an AngelList syndicate. Average check size going
now
forward?
Now it's about 500 to $1 million.
Wow.
It's growing.
And you used to be putting in, whatever, 250.
200, yeah, 200.
Yeah, and you had to grind it out doing syndicates.
Yep. Hard work.
Which is hard work.
Yep.
But now you can just write the whole check yourself.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
That is a turning
I still am
point.
doing syndicates, though, because the syndicate backers are amazing. They're like such a great source of deal flow. They help me with diligence. They're like my team. They're like super great. So.
It is one item on the cap table.
Yep.
But you get 50 to 250 people helping.
Yep.
And that's what people don't realize. And you can go see Zach's syndicate on AngelList. Just do a search for Zach on AngelList. You'll find it. And Antonio Garcia Martinez is back with us. He, of course, is the author of Chaos Monkeys and a contributor to Wired Magazine. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
All right, let's get right into it. There's a lot of stuff going on. And since you're an expert on Facebook, and you worked there for about 6 months.
Right.
How long did you work?
Those were a critical 6 months, though.
It was. How long did you work at the Facebook?
How long did I work at the Facebook? 2 years.
Couple years.
A year before and after the IPO.
A year before and after the IPO, so you're right there in the thick of it. We saw Casey from the Recode. Where's Casey from?
Verge, officially.
Verge. Okay, I don't know. This guy's from musical chairs, but he's from the Verge. He just did a story on content moderators. And the content moderators at Facebook, and I heard him on Kara's podcast, are dealing with PTSD because they're seeing people murdered, tortured, animal cruelty, Nazis, everything horrible in the world. And they're getting paid $30,000 a year. And I thought to myself, we're in the lowest unemployment in the history of the country, I believe, or a modern day low. Why are people taking this job to moderate the worst things on Facebook if they can't handle moderating the worst things in humanity? What is your take on Facebook's content moderators having PTSD?
You know, I mean,
Antonio.
it's really unfortunate, but it's understandable. You know, it's funny in those 2 years. I dipped my toe in the content moderation world. Facebook at the time was so chaotic. I was the PM for the ad review team, and so we had a series of content moderators. And how this typically works is, right, you've got a hybrid between software and humans, right? And you try to deploy as much smart software so that the human sucks up as little of the sort of cognitive load of looking at this horrifying content as much as possible.
Right.
And typically, I remember. It's a scene in Chaos Monkeys, actually. Every quarter, you have to give a presentation to Cheryl and show that the total number of employees stayed flat and the amount of content reviewed went up and followed the growth in the ad system. And if you manage to do that, I mean, it literally is almost like, a labor productivity plot in like Econ 101, right? Of where it's like flat headcount and like more and more productivity as technology made it more and more efficient.
Was it intellectually dishonest, though, because they were using external employees from contracting companies, not they're not Facebook employees. They're
Right.
contractors.
Right. Which wasn't the case when I was there.
Ah.
But I think part of the reason why they've gone to contractors who are so desperate is because if the amount of content you're supposed to moderate suddenly jumps up
Yes.
and the technology isn't there yet, you have to throw bodies at it. And so they just went out and said, throw as many bodies as possible at it. And hence we have a contracting firm in Florida somewhere, wherever the story was, in which, yeah, unfortunately, they're just pressing these people, not paying them very well, and completely rotting their minds by looking at all this content. Yeah.
I was thinking, like, number one, I don't mind them outsourcing it, because outsourcing it in a way means that you almost have like this more objective third party that they can point to and say, like, we gave them instructions and they followed the instructions, and it kind of gives them that nice arm's length.
Does it?
Does it? I don't know. In terms of liability, I don't know. But anyway, they're paying them so little.
That's right.
Like, it literally is like $28,000 or $30,000. And I'm just wondering on both sides, like, you don't have to take this job. You don't need to stay in this job. And why are they paying them so little, given how horrific the job is? But if you decided to go work in an industry where you had sensitive content, I don't know, the adult industry, adult film industry, you wouldn't go work for the adult industry and then say, I'm really offended by seeing pornography.
I don't think you can actually blame the employees here, right? I mean, look, they took a job. They may not have understood exactly what it was. They got into it. Like everyone else, you try to do a job as well as you can. They needed jobs because of whatever. I think to me that the interesting thing here
No,
is...
I think they train them and explicitly tell them, like, this is going to be horrible.
I don't know. I've never gone through the onboard. I couldn't say.
Yeah.
But I think the takeaway here for me is that when everyone clamors for Facebook to moderate more and more content, or when journalists say, hey, the Christchurch shooting video was up for 8 hours, we've got to get that down to 6. When you're straining the very hairy edge of like Facebook's AI capabilities, well, to get from 8 hours to 6 or 8 hours to 5 minutes or whatever we consider to be the acceptable bound, that means throwing way more bodies at it in order to solve that problem. Which, I mean, maybe that's a trade-off we want to make, but I think people should understand when they make those demands, there's a very realistic real-world trade-off, which is a bunch of people in Florida getting paid almost nothing to stare at videos to try to like stanch the wound as quickly as possible.
I mean, you're asking these journalists to actually start thinking a little bit before they write these salacious pieces. You're asking way too much. Well, like, I mean, that's crazy. It would be really like asking them to actually sit down and think for 2 minutes about the consequences of what they write. It's like you're just asking way too much.
Well, I like Casey as a writer, but I kind of agree with what you're saying, Zach, because it seemed to me like he was just telling one side of the story, which is,
get clicks.
Aren't you the same journalist who said Facebook is responsible for moderating? Then they moderate, and now you're saying they're responsible for the mental health of the people moderating. Well, are they? Like, responsible for, like, if you're that sensitive that you can't handle the worst of humanity, do not work in the worst of humanity review department. That's, to me, the crazy thing.
I think that's putting the blame on the employee, which I wouldn't do. I mean, I don't know whose brain wouldn't be scrambled by staring at beheading videos all day. I mean, anybody's brain would.
But why would you take that job if you couldn't handle that?
Because
you don't know.
Nobody.
You don't know. You don't know why.
I think Antonio's right here. Like, it's like at the end of the day, like, we have a long legal history of how we deal with basically the consequences of the work you hire people to do. And so if you put them in a factory and the machine cuts their head off, you're responsible for that. So if you put them in front of evil content and they have PTSD, you're responsible for that.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If you know that deep sea diving and welding is the most dangerous job in the world, which I think it is.
Those guys get paid a fortune.
They get paid a fortune. I agree. The pay is certainly an issue here. Like, they should literally be getting paid $75,000, $100,000 to do this job because it's so traumatic that they probably have a lifespan in terms of a job span in terms of how long you can reasonably do the job before wanting to get out of there. But you don't take the job to be a deep sea welder unless you are buying into that. Let's put that aside for a second and go to the next jump, which is, I think you're pointing out, Zach, which is, why are we setting an expectation that all content can be moderated when, in fact, these companies are based in the Bay Area, which is a city of a few million people, and we can't even solve homelessness with 7,000. And we're asking the same group of people to police a city that has over 1 billion people in it. Newsflash, if you can't get the couple of million people in San Francisco to behave in some reasonable standard, how on earth do 1 billion people get policed? It's a fool's errand. You cannot police it, can you?
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard. I think
it's not possible. you can stem the tide, but why do all these snowflakes and liberals think that Facebook or Twitter or YouTube is going to be able to moderate 1 billion people a day, or in Twitter's case, it might be like 30 million, when we can't, with tens of thousands of cops in a major city, prevent violent crime or homelessness or graffiti? You're not going to solve this problem.
Well, but I mean, Facebook has solved smaller versions of the problem, right? Like Facebook filters pornography pretty well. And so like there's smaller versions of this problem. I think what we've done is we've expanded, the scope of what can be content moderated to the point where the wheels are falling off the AI. And I mean, that's the reality of it. And that there's been mission creep there, to use a military term, in terms of like what they should or can moderate. That to me is the issue.
So the AI can now, pornography, because it's a fixed set of data, or it can reasonably nail it, 99%, whatever, to some point
really
9.
good.
Yeah, I've never seen actually pornography on Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
But hate speech,
Harder. Much harder.
well, if you took the transcript of every racial joke told by Dave Chappelle or whoever,
Right.
and you put it through that filter, would it pass or not, Antonio?
Most films made before 1990 probably wouldn't pass, but yeah. That's the
Well, I mean,
reality
I
of it.
think that's the level we've gotten to in terms of policing speech right now, is that the average comedian on David Letterman or Johnny Carson in the 90s or 80s wouldn't pass the terms of service of Twitter and Facebook today.
Heck, not just those comedians. I was looking at some of the old Protestant propaganda from the Reformation after the printing press. And so a lot of the anti-papal literature wouldn't pass Facebook now. And so,
Really?
Yeah, no. Well, I
I was
posted...
just thinking the same thing. I was wondering about the papal literature.
Yeah.
I was
So I always try to
thinking
class
about
things
it.
up here, man.
All right.
That's what I'm here for.
God bless you, Antonio.
Thank you,
Thank you
Antonio.
for taking us down that
Historical rabbit hole.
It's not a rabbit hole. It's just a full stop.
They were flatulating at the Pope. You can't flatulate at the Pope
What else
on
can
their
I say
current
at this
content
point?
moderation standards.
Wait a second. You're saying you can't fart in front of the Pope?
I don't think they had their buttocks bared in the woodcut that I'm referring to, which I'm happy to share later.
Don't go down this hole.
Don't
go down this. Don't go
This is a
down
trap.
this.
This is bait.
Hold on a second.
He's
What?
dangling.
Is it 4chan.com/what to get to the papal stuff? Slash
The Reformation.
PA, slash refer 4chan.
Martin Luther
I
fanboys.
just had an actual epiphany.
Martin Luther dank meme stash. That's what it is.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, the Martin
I just
Luther dank
had
meme
the
stash.
ultimate. I've threaded the needle, gentlemen. We can solve content moderation. All you have to do is pay the 4chan and 8chan trolls and fanatics
Yeah.
$25 an hour to remove the same content they're posting to 4chan from Facebook, because they can identify it. Literally, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. They remove it from Facebook and move it to 4chan.
That's a brilliant idea. Let's have the guys who create
Create
it
it,
remove it.
get paid to remove it.
This is the perfect.
Can I sign up for this? Because I'm just going to create it like crazy, and the next day I'm going to take it all
I'm
down.
going to
like
create a
the
content
Cobra.
generation
It's like
farm
the-
and then a content moderation farm.
It's the Cobra secondary
I'm gonna
effect.
print money on
from,
both sides.
Sides, yeah, exactly.
I love this business. This is a good business.
This
Can I
is a good
invest in this business? I like
Well,
this.
I mean, sometimes you need to hire some questionable people to
Criminals
solve.
make the best cops. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying. I'm just saying. All right, when we get back, Jony Ive has left Apple. We just don't know what year he left. Thank you. And Zuckerberg is trolling the Winklevi.
Oh, this is your theory. Okay.
My theory. The ultimate Zuckerberg troll. The longest revenge game in the history of revenge games when we get back on This Week in Startups. You already know Envision as the product design platform used by thousands of startups. All my startups use it. And it's also used by 100% of the Fortune 100. Well, now they have a new offering with startups in mind. It's called Envision for Startups. And they will help you streamline your workflow from design to development, and will make your startup life so much more manageable. Envision for Startups gives you the full suite of Envision tools, all packaged with a startup in mind. Get unlimited accounts, and that's what you need. You want everybody to have a voice in product development. Some people a little bit of less of a voice, some people a little bit more. It's one of the nice things about having a SaaS product with unlimited seats like that. Everybody gets to have a voice, and you get to centrally control that. Plus, you get the enterprise-level security and custom support. And here is my CMO, Presh, inviting teammates to help create a simple, freehand drawing. Look at how beautiful that is. with InVision tools. It's so simple. He's making an iPhone mock-up in just seconds. Andy has a full one done in minutes. And this is freehand collaboration. It lets you draw just like you're using a pencil and your beautiful moleskin. Boom, you just do that all online from concept all the way to development. So here is your call to action. I want you to go to envision.com/twist. That's INVISION, InVision. You know how to spell it, INVISION.com/twist. As in This Week in Startup, streamline your workflow with unlimited users on the full suite of InVision tools plus enterprise-level security and support. So all your designs, all your great ideas are safe and secure for your team to iterate on. Go ahead and check it out, envision.com/twist. Let's get back to this amazing episode. All right, welcome back to This Week in Startups. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis. With me, Zach Coelius. You can follow him on the Twitter, Zach Coelius, Coelius, and Antonio Garcia Martinez. He's Antonio GM, the GM of all Antonios. And if you haven't read Chaos Monkeys, what are you waiting for? Great book, great audio book. Pretty funny, too. Hey, Jony Ive left Apple, which I think is apparent since I saw that $9,000 or $12,000 iMac Pro tower that looked exactly like the tower that they discontinued and came up with the cylinder for. And the stand of that monitor was
$999 for a piece of metal.
$1,000 for the monitor. Do you know about this?
The one that looks like a cheese grater, right?
No, the monitor stand.
Oh.
It literally kind of looks like the mic stand here, but it's $1,000.
Okay, got it.
This is the level of insanity at Apple.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
They discontinued the Mac Pro tower, which is the tower that all video editors relied on to be able to switch video cards out and add RAID arrays and just generally have a functioning computer that you could open up and change the memory in. They then came out with that little garbage can, the cylinder. That was not expandable in a very reasonable way. It was absurdly expensive. They said, don't worry, everybody chill. We're going to come out with the Mac Pro again. They come out with it again. It's the same thing with a cheese grater on the outside of it.
Right.
But
Beautiful.
To put a cherry on the top, they came out with the 5K beautiful monitor again. The stand for the monitor cost $1,000. It's bonkers. Tim Cook is very upset with the Wall Street Journal because they reported that Jony Ive was leaving because maybe he felt Tim Cook doesn't care about design. And he said at a base level, it shows a lack of understanding of how the design team works and how Apple works. Tim was a little bent out of shape about it, which means it's probably true in all these cases when like you're protesting a little too much. Does it matter? Does like Jony Ive matter at all to Apple at this point in time? Anybody care?
I've never actually understood any of that industrial design stuff, so I'm not really. I'm not smart enough to know. Like, you know, to me it looks like slightly better, but not like world changing. But who knows?
All I know is that we built a PC tower here to put video editing software on, and we spent like $4,000 maxing it out to have like the highest speed anything, and it's much better than an $8,000 Apple version. And I moved the entire company to Chrome boxes and the Pixel Book. And it is such a better operating system than Mac OS because you don't get the grinding spinning to a halt.
You know what that price delta is? That's the brand affinity value of Apple right there if you want to price it. That's
it's absurd.
Right.
It's $3,000 for a laptop.
That's the goodwill the accountant will put on the book value for the company, right? It's just the burnished steel and the Mac goodness you get when you tell everyone you got a Mac. And
you know what? I have the Pixel 3.
As he talks with a Mac in front of him.
Well, as a studio Mac, I don't actually use the Mac OS anymore, and I literally have not used.
All right, you're a Chromebook guy, right? Or you like Chrome OS?
I'm 100% Chrome OS now, because it's so distraction free and it's so stable, and now you can load Android apps.
I know.
On the desktop. Which I don't really do, but it's kind of nice if I needed to check out an app. And I think that's going to be kind of the future of this. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Facebook and Libra, which is at Libra on Twitter with an underscore. some other troll owns @Libra. I own Libra. Facebook owns @Libra _. I own @Libra, which is hilarious to me.
It is awesome.
But let's break this down for a second. The Winklevi, who sued and settled with Zuckerberg for allegedly screwing them over, which he did. But let's face it, he didn't create the Facebook, because if he did create the Facebook, he would have created the Facebook, as we all know from the movie. But they came out with Gemini, which is going to be like some sort of a stable coin that the world banking can get around. And months later, Zuckerberg creates Libra?
Libra.
Wait a second. He didn't create Blue. He didn't create Zoom. He didn't create Tiger coin. Created another zodiac. Are there 12 signs of the zodiac or 8? I don't know how many
12.
there are. There's 12.
Yeah.
There's 12 zodiac signs. Oh, look at that. There's Libra. Libra follows me too. Inside.com/Libra.
Only 25,000 followers? It's kind of lame. I mean, I expect you to roll a lot deeper than that.
Listen, I own Libra, and yeah, it's gotten very popular. So I'm doing the ultimate troll now. I had my team post to Libra a horoscope one day, and then some Libra about the cryptocurrency the other day. So it's kind of like a hybrid.
You just sell to the Winklevi, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I know, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. Anyway, you're not allowed to sell Twitter handles, so
I see.
You're not technically allowed to sell them.
Okay.
Quid pro quo.
This is now, given what we just talked about, the world is on fire, demanding that Facebook police the multi-billion member community that they've amassed on a global basis. They're getting dragged into Congress. They're getting shut down in different countries during elections. People believe our democracy might have been handed over to the Russians or effed with because specifically of Facebook. And they have the audacity to say, our bad, but give us your money.
But let's replace the dollar.
Yeah. Let's replace the dollar.
I love it. Yes.
Brilliant.
I love it.
What is
Same company I knew. I love it. It's
stones.
amazing. Exactly.
They
It's
still have
stones.
stones.
Exactly. It's great.
I don't. It's the ultimate double level troll.
Right.
They're trolling the Winklevi.
Right.
And they're trolling humanity.
That's right.
And governments.
Or it might actually just work.
Right.
I actually think it's a good idea. I think it might work.
Okay.
I think it could be. Like,
Let's just talk about the audacity.
I know they're ballers. That's
Right.
big. Like that's a big baller move. Like that's when you know Zuck is still rolling.
About it.
He has not pulled a Larry and Sergey and gone kite surfing and hung out in his boat. He's still rolling.
He's still deep.
He's still deep.
He's rolling deep.
Yeah.
And he still wants to move fast and break
And he's
things.
going to change the world.
He's going to change the world and break
The world.
currency. He's going to break the monetary system after
Everything.
breaking democracy.
Change the world.
Somali pirates are going to start accepting Libra coin for hostages and shit. It's going to be nuts. Yeah.
It's amazing. And it actually might work. That's the best part about it. Like, you know I'm a huge crypto bear. I think the whole thing is flawed at its core.
As am I. But,
Because it's like there's no fundamental value. And Zuck's like, we can solve that problem. Boom. Basket of currencies.
Okay, explain
Done.
it. Explain what is brilliant about Libra.
Well, so the
Underscore.
the core
At
problem
Libra underscore. Explain what's great about. Explain what's cutting edge about at Libra underscore.
this is going to be Jason's favorite discussion topic
Yeah.
for
so
a
great.
long time. We're going to be talking about Libra
you
no
have to
matter
admit,
what is going on.
This is a meta level troll because I am trolling the troller.
Right.
I mean, that's meta. Anyway, what is brilliant about the basket of currencies? And just explain why you think this might actually work.
Yeah, I mean, so the fundamental problem with all cryptocurrencies is that they don't have a fundamental value. Like, there's no inherent value to any coin that exists. So, like, they all are like fiat this, fiat that, but like at the end of the day, the dollar represents a claim against the U.S. economy and the GDP of the U.S. economy, and it's basically legally required for paying taxes. So
And
that
a shit ton of nukes.
yeah. So
Anyway,
you
let's
can,
say there's a bunch of aircraft carriers too.
You
but
can-
yeah, exactly.
a lot of
Throw in a
things.
couple of nuclear subs
Yeah.
and maybe some Navy SEAL teams that can kill you from 3 miles away.
Right.
Yeah. So you can run the math. You can say how many dollars are in existence, and then you can say how big is the GDP and how big is all of those nukes.
Army,
and then we say, okay, what's a dollar worth? And so the dollar is a claim on that, whereas Bitcoin is a claim on nothing, like zero.
A white paper.
Yeah.
Well, it's presumably tied to the cost of computation because there's mining. But
No, but
sure.
the cost of computation is not value. It's actually a cost. So there's actually no value there. You don't.
But there
you
is
own a negative cost. So every day we basically have to burn money just to keep that ship floating along. Whereas the U.S. economy produces money
It's a
every
fair
day.
point that it's an expense, but it is an infrastructure that has magically appeared.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Sure.
But you're right. Continue.
So that's the core problem. It's always been my core issue. Is like at the end of the day, when the next macro downfall happens, whatever it may be, like everyone's going to start selling everything. And at the end of the day, what are they going to sell? They're going to sell their crypto really fast because everyone else is going to be selling their crypto. And so the same thing, the momentum that drove it up will drive it right back down. So it's like the best short ever when you get really scared is short crypto, which the crypto fiends say that like, oh, no, we're going to hold it because it's going to be strong like gold, but they're idiots. Anyway, so Libra. The core thing about Libra is that that's the core problem. They said, okay, let's go in and create a basket of currencies that basically represents on a one-to-one basis each of those crypto Libra coins, whatever we're going to call them, and we're going to have actual dollars in a bank account.
Let's call them Libra.
Yeah, we're going to have Libra. We're going to have these in a bank account to represent on a one-to-one basis. So not like the bullshit like fraud that is like going on with Bit2Rex and why am I blinking?
XRP.
No.
Pick it.
What's the
Pick 'em.
Binance.
Binance.
Yeah, I'm blinking on the name of it. I'll remember in 2 seconds. Anyway, not like the fraud that's going on with that basically like paid currency
Binance,
where it's like one-to-one.
Ripple.
Yeah.
Anyway.
it solves two problems.
Oh, you're
right?
talking
It's all
about there was a one-to-one currency.
But it turned out it wasn't one-to-one.
But
It was
it
like
was
75%. Yeah.
It's a rounding error.
And it's still valued at a one-to-one basis, even though it's only basically reserved at 75%.
Isn't the New York
amazing.
Attorney General investigating
Of
all
course,
that?
it's a fraud.
Of course.
The whole thing's a fraud. But anyway.
Okay, so stablecoin equals good.
Yeah.
So, to be clear, it's two things, right? One is actual intrinsic value, and the other is the volatility inherent in Bitcoin that makes it, you want a store of wealth.
Yeah.
The thing can't go up or down 10% a day. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It'd be like living in Weimar, Germany. It'd be at just prices literally every second, right? So presumably they're going to have a massive foreign exchange desk. It's going to be sitting there buying and selling this basket to try to produce the stability among the very strong currencies.
Super easy. Like if you want to basically own Libra, you put your money in, it goes into a bank account, it sits there, generates interest, and that's a one-to-one basis.
Is it going to generate interest?
Yes. The interest that basically is generated from your currency is going to be used to fund the partners that basically Facebook has gotten to sign up to basically be the launch partners.
And
then you get to the cool part, which is programmable money. So programmable money is super powerful. That's
smart
the whole
contracts are cool.
Like micropayments for content. Like right now, you can't do micropayments for content because you got to go to the banks, and the banks are old and shitty and slow. But now you could basically go through Libra and boom, you want to pay 2 cents for this article? Boom.
Why hasn't Google or Twitter decided to do their own cryptocurrency and embed it in Chrome and YouTube? And
Twitter? Why would Twitter do? I mean, Twitter can't ship a change to a button. It takes them 3 years, and they're going to ship a currency.
That's okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Google no longer has the stones that Zuck has. Zuck still has the stones.
So he doesn't mind putting himself in the crosshairs of regulators. Yeah. Does this help or hurt Facebook and Zuckerberg's regulation?
Who cares?
Issue?
You know what the bigger existential threat is to Facebook? They've lost the stones to do this sort of shit. Losing those stones is a bigger threat to Facebook than anything the U.S. government can ever do. And that's one of the underlying ironic realities that nobody wants to accept and nobody in the whole tech commenter community wants to fucking accept. That the big risk to Facebook is not doing this, not doing it. Because at the end of the day, they can't do anything. Who cares?
The history of these tech companies is they go up and they go down. And they all go down when they lose their stones.
When they lose their stones.
The moment that they basically, they stop.
It's not because the EU showed up. What army does the EU have? Who cares? It's a bunch of windbags. I mean, that's,
Wow. So Audacity is the currency.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah.
But as soon as you lose it, you're done.
You're done.
Yeah.
All right. When we get back from this quick break, top 3 use cases each. Write them down on a piece of paper here. Let's assume Libra succeeds.
Legal or illicit or illicit?
I'm going to leave it up to you guys.
Okay.
Legal, illicit,
because the criminals are always the early adopters.
Okay, great. There's a little tip-off of what we're going to preview. When we get back, top 3 in order, Libra use cases 5 years from now when we get back on This Week in Startups. Do you want to turn your idea into a website, a beautiful website? Well, If you did that with Squarespace, you're going to be able to blog and publish content whenever you want. You can sell products or services because you got all that great e-commerce functionality in there. And you can promote a physical or an online business, or you could announce that special event like I did, or a special project. Super easy. Squarespace is the answer. It provides beautiful and customizable templates and also powerful e-commerce functionality. So you no longer have to get those things in 2 different places. In fact, people had 3 or 4 different vendors putting together what Squarespace now does with one simple login and one simple subscription. You can buy domains and choose from over 200 extensions, and you'll get great analytics, search engine optimization, free and secure hosting, and of course, Squarespace's amazing 24/7 award-winning customer support. It's all optimized for mobile, so you're not going to have this phenomenon where you get super frustrated because somebody makes a beautiful looking website on their desktop and it looks terrible on an iPad or an iPhone. No, Squarespace looks great everywhere. Here is my CMO Presh browsing the templates on Squarespace to create a site in minutes, and he made this beautiful site for our portfolio company, Superhuman, and it's called superhumanwallpaper.com. A site that showcases all the Inbox Zero images. And look how quickly he just put that together. Bing, bang, boom, done. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial today. And when you're ready to launch, I want you to use the offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I know you don't need the 10% off, but please remember to use TWIST so they know we sent you. And if you want to, go ahead and thank at Squarespace on Twitter for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. Again, squarespace.com, use that promo code TWIST, and you'll get 10% off. Thanks again to Squarespace for being one of our longest running supporters. I truly appreciate it. Great job to the team over there. We love your product. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode. Welcome back, my guests, Zach Coelius and Antonio Garcia Martinez. Go buy Chaos Monkeys and go ahead and join Zach's syndicate if you are an accredited investor and you want to get in on angel investing. I think you should, but it's risky. What percentage of net worth, Zach, should new accredited investors who want to learn about angel investing deploy over the first 5 years of investing?
So what I say is it's sort of like buying a lottery ticket that's actually positive EV, which means your expected value on a lottery ticket is, a fraction of every dollar you put in, you get back. Whereas if you angel invest, it's still likely you're going to be ripping it up. But every now and then you write that $25K check into Uber, and then God help the rest of the world after that.
Why am I here?
I wonder that every day.
I do too.
Why are you still working?
14 people who work for me.
Why are you still working?
That literally is like, everybody's like, can I have a raise? Are you going to keep coming to work? Is it okay for me to ask for, you're going to keep coming to work?
It's the only investment that actually is positive EV and can change a rich person's life. There's no other investment that could ever return 100,000 times your money, but theoretically, this can.
Yes. What is the number of investments you have to hit in order to have a reasonable chance of an outlier?
It's a lottery ticket. You should just treat it like a lottery ticket. You could make one bet or you could make 1,000 bets, and every one you might rip up, but one might pay off.
I tell everybody get to 30 or 40. I think that's when you have enough in the basket that you could hit an outlier. That's just my own thesis or theory if you have good deal flow. Okay, Libra use cases. Facebook claims that this is a nonprofit somewhere in Switzerland, and they are not going to control it in another year or two.
Okay.
I think is the answer to that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but there's also other people who put money in, but 10 million here or there. Like Uber put in 10 million or something. Right. So that doesn't seem like a major commitment. But let's say this does get included in every single account across the Facebook, triumvirate of WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. They all have it. What becomes the use cases?
So you think of the credit card companies, right? They basically intermediate almost every transaction you make, and they sit there and they take, their bit every single time to do something that is no longer necessary. We walk around carrying supercomputers in our pocket, and we don't need to basically have a bank and a credit card company and like 50-year-old piece of technology that basically takes a cut of every transaction that we make. Yeah. Facebook intends to basically have your money sitting here, and then when Antonio and I want to exchange money, we don't need a bank between us. Basically, I just put my phone on his, and
then
boom, I send him
Facebook
money.
takes
Nothing. They
zero.
they don't want to intermediate that transaction. They simply want to cut out all, when you have the scale that Facebook has, the only way to move the needle in that business is to get bigger. And the real
second.
money is the banks. Cut them down and kill them.
Weren't the banks and the Visas and the MasterCards participating in this?
No.
None of them? I thought some financial...
They were in the press release, but I'm not sure exactly.
No, I don't think they joined. No, I don't think any bank joined, and I don't think Visa joined.
I thought one of the credit card companies joined. Let's take a fact check there, Jackie. But
I don't think
that's a long way of saying drugs, sex, and death. That's going to be the first use cases.
Drugs, sex, and death.
Yeah.
Okay,
basically.
so...
WeChat. Just like WeChat.
Yeah, WeChat.
Oh, is that going on WeChat, really?
Well, I don't know about the drug, sex, and death, but supposedly in China you can pay for almost everything in WeChat,
everything in
like down
WeChat.
to the little noodle shop. Yeah, it basically becomes a form of currency. Yeah.
And is WeChat tied to a crypto, or is it? No, it's real money.
So. Yeah,
it's real money.
Still connect to RMB.
So, what are the chances the United States government allows this in the United States or tries to stop it?
I mean, the history of the United States government and any of these things is blatant and raw incompetence. Like, you watch them talk about technology and they're morons. So their likelihood of actually regulating technology, I'm not holding my breath.
They're going to stop until they figure out how to tax it. Obviously, that's what every politician does. Yeah.
Maybe.
So that's their key: is can we get a VIG on this?
Yeah, obviously.
But if we're just sending money back and forth between each other, or tokens, or whatever they are, I guess they're going to have to come up with a system where if you send over $10,000,
that's right,
you report it. So they're going to add banking reporting to this.
I mean, the other question is, how does this turn into fiat, right? That's always, in the crypto world, seems all this beautiful crypto libertarian Mad Max or whatever, but I want a greenback, and suddenly, you get bogged down in the banking system, and suddenly all the regular rules apply, right? Until everyone starts accepting Bitcoin, which no one does. So that's, how do you reclaim your Zuck bucks into dollars, or vice versa? Can I show up with a briefcase with $1 million and turn it into Libra?
Yeah. There was a thing going around the poker community in Vegas where there was a guy...
There was a guy.
There's a guy.
You've got a
Zach
guy.
knows this
I've got
story.
a guy.
No, there was a guy who was, giving people, I guess, thumb drives.
Uh-huh.
And you would give him, some cash. So he would give you a Bitcoin. And he was just basically doing he got busted. I guess somebody tipped off the government, and he had been moving around, let's call it hundreds of thousands, low millions of dollars. And it was very serious money laundering charges. And in the casinos, really, casino chips are the biggest corollary to this in my mind. And people don't understand how those chips work. I now play in some poker games at, say, the Aria. And, there are $5,000 chips. Now, when you're playing, when I used to play at the $500 games, you're doing $5 chips. They'll just cash you in and out. You've done this, Zach. Cashing out, $5 chips. They'll do it to the cows come home. They don't care. You come up with a $5,000 chip. Each of those chips, where did you get the chip? Whose chip is it? And you're like, I was playing poker. They're like, when? Where? What table? With whom? Did you buy this $5,000? And I was like, when I was just at the game, my friend who was playing blackjack spotted me 10 dimes. I was playing poker. I won a little bit. I go to cash out for 15 dimes. They wouldn't cash me out. And I was like, my friend gave it to me. So then your friend's got to cash out. So then I got to go to my friend. We got to go to the cage. He cashes out. Then he hands me the 15 dimes. It's crazy. That's what's going to happen with this. It's going to get so locked down. But I think the real hidden thing here is going to be the ad network, which you...
The ad network. Okay.
Yeah. Let me explain. There was something called Steemit. I thought it was the most clever, after CryptoKitties, of the crypto projects. And I'm not joking. Steemit was Reddit with a cryptocurrency attached. I think it was called Steemit.
Okay.
So imagine if voting something up cost you a penny. And if you got voted up and you got 1,000...
It's like Karma, but actually with financial...
Exactly.
It's like Hacker News Karma.
Yeah, like Hacker News Karma or Reddit Karma or Reddit Gold, I guess they called it. Yeah. That, to me, on something at scale like Instagram, where Miley Cyrus or somebody... Oh, there it is. There's Steemit. So this person here at Steemit, see the $12 and then scroll down a little bit to the second one, and you can hit Command ++ on this, and it will get bigger. But that third one there got $32 in, I think that's US. Click on that dollar amount there and let's see what it says when you click on that. Thank you, Master Nick. Pending payout, $32. So that person for hitting that got $32. This was something I was doing with Netscape when I cloned Dig and Reddit, and I said, I'll just pay the top 20 Redditors and Dig people, and I hired them for $1,000 each with AOL's money to just pay them $1,000 each to just submit the best stories from all around the web, and it worked. This is what Facebook's going to do. Can you imagine you're an influencer on Instagram and you get $300 in likes for that photo?
I have a hard time picturing them doing that. It's going to create such perverse incentives. Talk about misinformation and viral content. It's going to go bonkers if people actually get paid for it. Think of all the Moldovans who will show up.
Just like,
I mean, they're currently getting paid
we
for
just
it.
put Trump in office. How much worse is it going to
yeah,
get?
but it's not Facebook. It's not Facebook paying them. That's the thing. They drive traffic to some.
But I mean, like, as soon as the whole point is, like, once Libra exists, once you have programmable money, you will start to have micropayments. That's going to happen. Content micropayments are going to happen, and at the point you do that, then somebody's going to build in a mechanism where basically your content gets
super heart. Okay, you double tap, you give a heart for free. You triple tap, you give a heart and a Libra, or a penny of a Libra. You 5-tap, you gave 3 Libras, whatever it is.
On Twitch, it's happening right now. I mean, you go watch on Twitch, and people
Cam
are like,
Girls was where this started, going back to the adult
If you go
stuff.
to China, basically, there's huge amounts of money moving around like this. This is definitely going to happen.
That's going to be the most fascinating. Can you imagine some of the? I mean, who's the biggest person on? Is it one of the Jenners or Kim Kardashian? Yeah. Kim Kardashian gets paid what to do a social media post? Would they get paid for the Fire Festival? Kendall Jenner or Kyrie or whoever? No,
big numbers.
I think they got paid like $150K. Yeah, $250K to
writing a simple post
to do the Fire Fest one. Yeah. You guys got tickets to Fire Fest too, right? Yeah,
of course.
Okay. Yeah. We're gonna be there together, both dressed in tutus, holding hands.
Absolutely. I got the baller. Sherpa tent. It's going to be amazing.
You haven't gotten the invite yet. Like,
well, it's 3 bedrooms. I just assume 1, 2, 3.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I got 3. It's a 3-bedroom suite.
Yeah, okay.
With cheese sandwiches, unlimited cheese sandwiches. That to me is the huge win. Can you imagine that?
There's a world that's coming. I don't think people realize how much our world's going to change in the next 20 years. Like we are like at the very end of a generation that I don't think people understand the consequences of.
Give me your top change that you see happening.
Well, I mean, robots basically are going to eliminate human labor in our lifetime. In our lifetime, physical human labor will cease to exist in our lifetime. At which point, basically, we really won't need the vast majority of humanity to do work. At which point, like, capitalism starts to become very problematic because if you don't have to pay people for their labor, like, what are you going to pay them for? You're not. At the same time, basically, VR becomes almost real, and like you are going to be able to go into VR and it's going to feel real, it's going to look real, it's going to smell real. What are all those people who don't have jobs going to do? They're gone.
You're saying
I get so excited, I spilled coffee on myself.
It's okay. You believe all human labor,
the vast majority
of labor done for compensation is going away.
Physical
Antonio,
labor.
you disagree.
I used to believe that. Now I'm a little bit more skeptical about it, having talked to various people. I think there will be jobs invented for these people.
Nope.
No, there won't be jobs.
No, because physical labor will no longer be necessary.
But the wealthy. They'll have other things to sell.
To do what?
I can tell you.
Fucking babysitting via telepresence robots and shit.
If
the
you
robots
think
will do a better job, they're more trustworthy.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's what's going to happen. I have a plan.
Okay, let's hear it.
Mayor Jason has a plan.
Mayor Jason's plan.
Here's my plan. The robots, because I talked about this 4 years ago with Henry from Cafe X.
Sure.
We have greeters, or they have greeters at the Cafe X machines.
For now.
Yeah. They don't have to have them there.
Not necessary.
So what I said was, why not? And I'm reticent to say this here, but because I think it's such a good idea and they're probably going to do it. But imagine if you went there and there was somebody playing a guitar or reading poetry or doing some other...
Doing mime.
Yeah. What's that?
Performative dance or like a mime
act.
Well, Cirque du Soleil in front of the coffee machine.
Antonio, if you want to do performance, we can make room for your interpretive dance.
In a tutu.
In a tutu. Right. But I think that I'm going to go with the Zach side of the bet, which is we create more labor. Because look at it. The idea that podcasters would be a living, talking and having your own talk show that 15,000 people tuned into would be viable. The fact that being an influencer and wearing bikinis and bathing suits or doing stunts.
And not only that, and human contact, when robotics does everything, human contact becomes a luxury good. And so the wealthy will actually pay to talk to humans rather than
The average
robots.
American right now watches 40 hours of television a week. 40 hours.
5 hours a day.
40 hours of,
Really?
two-dimensional.
I can't do anything for 40 hours a week, much less TV.
Non-responsive screen.
You weren't doing 40 hours on Facebook when you worked there.
Well, I did was.
I mean, for a brief period, he was doing 80 hours.
I was doing.
watched.
Were you really?
Oh
He
yeah.
actually worked.
If you left,
at one point, he worked.
At one
what
point,
was
I
the
actually,
earliest you left the office, and what was it like to leave at that hour?
What does leave mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I'm serious. If
never
you
over.
left at 6 p.m.,
Yeah.
what would it be like walking to the door at 5, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. at Facebook?
I never did it.
Back then, yeah.
You never did it.
No.
Did
I
you
ate
ever
all 3
see
meals there.
anybody do it? And if you did, what would people be like?
Nobody at my. I don't know. No. Well, yeah, no. There were some of the senior people would leave early.
And people would roll their eyes or be like senior
I would,
people?
but no.
See, that's my joke here. When people
Zuckerberg was there late as hell. By the way, he'd have meetings at 10 at night.
when people leave my office at 6 or 7, I go, "Oh, half day." It's my standard joke, but I don't let people work late here.
You're admitting to labor violations on air, so good luck with that.
No, I mean everybody gets paid.
They get
well.
paid overtime, of course. There's a union, right? Have you guys unionized yet?
We edit this show. No, actually, you have to really consider that the overtime thing. If they get, I think it's 46K, under 46K, you have to pay overtime. Under 46K or under 42? I think in California. Anyway, there's a rule around it. So, what do you think will be the other? So, end of manual labor. VR becomes so good that some people get lost in it. Just
The
like
vast
some
majority of humanity basically will spend the vast majority of their lives in VR in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the one that I don't think so.
I mean, like the
I
incel
put that
crowd,
headset
yeah,
in, and I'm
probably.
just like, no.
Yeah, we got 50 years. In 50 years, absolutely.
You know what? I put that shit on, and it does not compelling for me.
You're looking at the very bottom of the curve, just like everyone looked at
much better is it
Facebook when it was
gonna
at $20, being like, "This is a dumb
I mean, the
company.
counter
It's a
argument is
20."
we've been
And,
hearing
like,
that for
look at
20
it now.
years. VR has been like the perpetual technology of the future for 20 years.
Yeah, but look, like if you look
it
at
could be
every
now.
curve, the chip curve, the knowledge curve,
How
like
much
the technology
better
curve,
does it have to get? When I go in there and I putt golf, it feels like real golf to me. But I would rather see my friends and go to the Warriors
old.
games
You're
or go
old.
play poker with my friends.
You're old and wealthy, and you have options that a lot of the users don't have.
Yeah. Average American, 40 hours of television a week. That's the baseline. Non-responsive,
All right.
two-dimensional screen that basically like you can't like you're gonna put them into VR and they're gonna live there.
All right, so VR, you got VR and end of physical manual labor. What do you got in our lifetime that's going to be game changer, bigger than those two?
The thing that scares me, or I think about a lot, is the rise of democratized media, right? The fact that we've invented human telepathy. Everyone can talk to anyone as much as they want with unfettered access, with absolute privacy encrypted. Like this, I'm not sure that the post-World War II world that we've lived in, right, with mass market, mass society type concepts like liberal democracy and just this the notion that we have a continent spanning country with 330 million people, and that suddenly now every Tom, Dick, and Harry can get as much distribution and create an ethos as much as the blessed anointed media figures from the East and West Coast. I don't know how much of, again, this post-World War II world that we've been living in survives in that world. Because I don't know how you maintain any sort of cultural or political cohesion among 330 million people when everyone has this. I don't know that it's possible.
There's great books on the rise of nationalism that came basically at the point of the printing press. And the printing press basically unified thought at a national level because that was the scale that it made sense to basically own and distribute via printing press. It was functioning like an economic scale thing that created the nation. And now we're just taking that construct that we currently think is real and we're tearing it asunder. And it's not going to respond well to what's happening in the next 20 years.
Is there a solution? Is it to just have smaller... I mean, you look at the Nordics, you look at, 10 million size democracies, and it works a lot better when you only have to contend with 5 or 10 or 15 million people.
The first order solution is, federalism, 50 experiments in democracy, whatever. But I think the problem here is, looking back at our time, I think from 1,000 years from now, is the biggest thing going to be this? I think the biggest change that's happened is the decoupling of the movement of atoms with bits, right? I'm old enough. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember when I was a kid, letters were still how most humans communicated.
Yeah.
It was the only way normally. I still have a pile of letters from old girlfriends and parents and whatever, right? But that was like a piece of paper written down, a little stamp.
Stop writing me letters.
And then 4 days later, it gets there.
Yeah.
But now my entire social and moral and political reality is refracted through this black mirror and has nothing to do with the geographic proximity to me. And the fact that you see like deep alliances in politics between like the Brexit and the Trumpers and Salvini in Italy.
God.
It's like, when the hell would that would never have happened before without some international movement like
I
communism
hate
behind
to be
it, right?
an idiot.
Yeah.
But it's kind of my role on the show.
Yeah.
Do you realize I didn't know what Black Mirror meant?
Right.
Black Mirror is staring into your phone?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Did everybody in the room know that?
God, Jason.
Literally, there's 8 people in the
No,
room.
it's the mirror from Snow White. That's what it was.
No, I just thought it was like, dark mirror, like we're looking at humanity. I never thought it was the iPhone. Yeah. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
When we get back from this commercial, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to be the sea change that will break humanity forever when we get back on This Week in Startups. Are you struggling to sleep at night? Well, you're not alone. 1 in 3 U.S. adults are not getting enough sleep. And it's critical if you're an entrepreneur or an investor. You need to get great sleep so that your cognitive function is at a high level, like learning and problem solving, decision making, all of these behaviors that we have to do as entrepreneurs and investors. We need sleep. And people who don't get the right amount of sleep, they're prone to accidents, weight gain, and depression. Don't I know it? But when you sleep well, you're so much more focused. We get relaxed and we get crisp and we're happy. And that's why we are partnering with Calm, the #1 app for sleep. You'll get a library of programs designed to help you get the sleep your body and your brain needs, from soundscapes and over 100 sleep stories. I love sleep stories, and so does my daughter. And then they have all these other ones, even ones for adults, and you play them and you drift off to sleep. Here is my man Presh, my CMO, who needs to get his sleep because he's working for me and I'm not an easy boss. And you see him going through Easter Island and all these different hidden forest, beautiful stories and sounds, including Matthew McConaughey. All right. He'll read you a sleep story as well. And he does a great job. Thank you, Matthew McConaughey. And of course, you know I'm an investor in Calm.com. So it's so great to have Alex on the podcast years ago, back in 2012. And then now we're sitting here 7 years later, and they're a sponsor and a partner of This Week in Startups. That is just amazing and touching. Thank you to the team at Calm.com for working so hard to make such a beautiful product. And then coming full circle from being a guest on the podcast to coming now and supporting it as a sponsor. Oh my God, my heart is filled with so much joy right now. So much joy that I'm going to give you 25% off a Calm premium subscription. Go to calm.com/twist. That's CALM.com/twist. Thanks again to Calm, and thanks for supporting the podcast. I really do appreciate that. Let's get back to this amazing episode. All right, welcome back to This Week in Startups. Apparently, the original island for Fire Festival is for sale for $11 million. I put in a bid for $9 million. I think we're going to, maybe I'll put it in for $8 million. We'll lowball them. And we're going to kickstart this, and we're going to start Fire too. My favorite part of that festival, did you see the docs for this? You haven't seen the docs for Fire Festival? Oh my God, you guys are going to have a great weekend. It is going to be awesome. It's so great. Okay, here's my thinking of what cracks humanity.
Sure.
I believe that AirPods are going...
Sorry, go ahead. It's not what I was expecting, but go ahead.
I believe that AirPods are going to be air implants within... let's call it 10 to 20 years.
And the aliens are going to hack it and then take over
the Russians, man.
No, they're going to go into your ears. And I believe that you will have a similar function with contact lenses and or glasses, obviously.
This is a Black Mirror episode, by the way.
Neuro implants.
Yeah.
Neural implants. But this is the second order that people are not anticipating. I think the same way you have Trump derangement syndrome, you have social media isolation, FOMO, is going to lead to a proportion of people jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and killing themselves and having anxiety and depression that is unheard of, because we're already having that happen. We're already having a populace where young people, the leading cause of death went from drunk driving, like for young men, to suicide.
To Instagram, yeah.
Well, I mean, we joke about it, but I think the social isolation and not looking people in the eye and having a poker game or a bottle of wine or a real conversation, it is death by Instagram. I mean, it's a joke, but it's not.
But Instagram isn't the cause of it, right? Society, the social fabric has crumbled, and they resort to social media as a stopgap, which it's a digital proxy for that. I've often joked that like Facebook is the real community, like porn is the real sex, right? It's like no one would actually use it if you had real community, but it's like the fill-in, right? So I don't know that it's death due to Instagram.
It's a synthetic version,
right? That
lets you feel empty inside. It's eating the empty calories.
If incorrectly used, yeah, sure.
And it is it's the sugar and the wheat and the reaction of your body to it is really making you feel this crazy anxiety.
The high fructose corn syrup.
It's the high
of social fabric.
Of social fabric.
Yeah.
And we were wondering what would happen if you took out religion or the nuclear family or some common, nationalism or belief in country or belief in the Constitution or belief in humanity or God or any of this shit. And now you have people are going to be saturated.
It's just performative narcissism. That's all it is.
Yeah. And they're going to be saturated with it as they fall asleep. And as they wake up, they're going to be coming in and out of sleep with these devices implanted into them, programming them with an algorithm.
Just think about when you have neural implants and you have a machine that basically feeds content into those implants, and that machine has ML. I mean, it's like, oh, you like that? Here's some more. Oh, you like that? Here's some more.
Yeah, where does that lead you to?
You know how the Matrix starts? It's not because the machines plug us in. We're just like, woohoo, let's go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know Kung Fu, right? And it's if you think about that, I don't know if you saw that New York Times interactive piece. It was a Kevin Roose piece, I believe, about the road to the alt-right, which was a little ridiculous because they put a bunch of not alt-right people on it, and they kind of proved that the alt-right person then got out of the alt-right because
there's a happy ending.
There was a happy ending, so it was kind of garbage. But I just very hard to read the New York Times now because it's gone so liberal hysterical that it's so anti-tech and so woke.
The person who pays gets what he wants, and if you go from an advertising model to a subscriber model, the subscribers get what they want.
Is it me or does the New York Times this crazy liberal woke madness now?
No, I think Antonio has the right theory on this.
Right, which is
pick a side. They did Fox News. Pick a side.
Again, I'm going to class it up here with a longer-term view, which is if you look at why newspapers have the notion of objectivity, right? It's because part of it's ideological. If you go back and read some of their literature, mostly it's because Macy's needed a national market to advertise in the 1910s and 20s. Before the 20th century, most newspapers were completely partisan. The Press Democrat meant it was a Democratic Party thing, and most party members would just join and subscribe, and most newspapers were subscription driven. But that doesn't really suit the purposes of Macy's or Sears or anybody else, and so they sort of pivoted to human interest and news with a divide between sort of op-ed and an opinionated side versus a news side. If you look at most of the Western world, you go to the UK, there is no such divide, right? You read the Spectator or the Observer or the Daily Mail, and you're getting one particular point of view, right? What I think is really ironic, what's going on right now, is that who has that business model now? Facebook and Twitter, of course. Facebook are the national the national method of reach. So who's freaking out about objectivity and both sides of them? Facebook and Twitter, of course. Yeah. And every time the conservatives raise their hands, somebody rationally have to say, oh, they're shutting us down, even though Fox News is the biggest network on Facebook by far. They have to sit there and say, oh, sorry, and talk them off the cliff, right? And then meanwhile, New York Times have just seen a huge jump in subscriptions since Trump got elected. Can sit there and basically placate their customer because at the end of the day, the customer wins, right? And so it's just very interesting, which, by the way, I think is totally fine.
Which they're leaning into.
Right, which I think is fine.
Clearly.
Newspapers in the past, that's how they used to work, and that's fine.
They don't work that way anymore.
They just don't work that way anymore.
It's like objectivity never was true, and now it's definitely not
true. Yeah.
Well, it felt so nice, though, to open up the New York Times and have this idea.
Right.
Because I grew up in the 80s and 90s in New York with some of these journalists were, contemporaries. And when I had my magazine in New York, and we really it was drilled into us to be objective by our editors who were training us. And they would say, did you talk to the other side? Is there other opinion here? Did you fact check this? Now it's like, do we fact check it? That breaks the narrative.
Right.
We can't fact check this. If we fact check this, then, like we pointed out earlier with the flaw in the Facebook, Casey story, well, didn't you just all ask them to police it? Now you're complaining that they're policing it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so, I don't know.
It's over.
I mean,
It's over. Okay. I think it's
just over.
It's over. I agree.
We now basically have to assume that, and then what's scary is that like now we have to assume that all content is truly flawed, biased, and we actually have to use our brains. But the problem is that the vast majority of old people in this country who vote and who have the majority of the political power, they basically have been spoon-fed this lie for the last 50 years that content is subjective.
Walter
So now they go,
Cronkite. That's the way it is.
Like, they believe that. So they go out, they watch Fox News, they're like, oh, that's the truth. And then they just
and
go
the liberals
down,
are doing it with MSNBC and New York Times.
in both
They're
directions, on both sides. But they go down the stupid hole, and that leads to the current political partisanship that we have.
I'm trying to stay balanced. So what I do is I listen quite literally, to Ben Shapiro and Rachel Maddow back to back on my drive home. And it could not
painful.
Be. It is painful.
Both painful.
Well, no, they're both hysterical in different ways. Mm-hmm. And you hear one person doesn't bring up the Mueller report.
Right.
And the other person is obsessing on every page of the obstruction charges. And it's like, he's telling you he obstructed in plain language.
And neither is lying, to be clear, right? They're
No!
not right. And that's the thing. And that's one of the great ironies. Like, never has it been easier to document reality. Literally, everyone can live stream TV. Like, I remember I used to take a fucking van with an antenna with 3 dudes inside to, like, live stream a video feed. Now, everybody can do it. Like, there's no ambiguity about what's going on, and yet no one knows what the fuck is going on, right? That's the weird thing. That's one of the great ironies.
Okay, I think I know what's going on. The crazy people who are the most mentally ill, who are the most extreme, have taken over the dialogue.
That's right.
And everybody else is like, you know what? This is a shit show that I don't want to participate in.
Right.
So you get on Twitter and, like, if you see the liberals fighting with the alt-right people, you're just like, oh my Lord. It's just like you turn around and walk away. It's like walk away. It's like seeing like a crazy deranged person on the street.
It's like a bar fight. You just walk the other way.
It's like a bar
I
fight.
don't care.
Exactly.
I'm out.
Thank
I'm not going to
you.
catch the bottle in the head. I don't care. I'm out.
These guys are drunk and they're swinging bottles. I'm going to be collateral damage here. I need to get out of this.
That may not be a bad thing, to be honest. I think 90% of Americans are perfectly sane, normal people who believe in rule law, all the rest of it. Yeah. The 10% are all on Twitter screaming at each other. They're all out of their minds. And like,
we've contained them in a way. We've contained the zombie apocalypse. If this truly, it's almost like identifying who these maniacs are. Because Twitter is us, intelligent, thoughtful people.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Considered.
It might be an overstatement.
No, and
I'm
then
not sure
you have all these people surrounding us. Considered, thoughtful, well-read individual citizens. But it is all the crazy people. Because when I go out into the real world, I don't meet these crazy people like on Twitter.
No.
They've just all populated in one. They should just shut Twitter down, right? I mean, that's basically what it's come to.
No, it's just going to get worse. Twitter is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Like we're looking like think back to like when we started in Silicon Valley. So you think back to where like when I first moved to Silicon Valley, it was 2005. And I remember I had an index that I made up of the number of tech stories that were on page 1 of the New York Times. Yeah. And that was my index if I had made the right choice to move to Silicon Valley. Yeah. And I was like, oh, look, it's going up. I made the right choice. Now it's like Silicon Valley is just beginning to take over the world. Right. And like we have not changed the world yet at the way we're going to. Right. Like in the next 10, 20 years, the world is fundamentally going to change. Like we're still living in the old afterthought leftover.
I'm actually thinking these VTOLs, the vertical takeoff and landing things, are real.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
like this is actually going to happen.
Yeah.
We were promised flying cars.
Yeah, we're going to get them.
And we're going to get flying cars.
Yeah.
What do you think? Over under on VTOLs in a major city?
Did we bet on this the last show
did,
I was on?
And I just want to bring it up again because
But you got to specify like sub 100K or something because like I'm sure you can buy one now for $1 million, right?
No, okay. Here's what I'll say: a commercial under $100 ride. Let's just say.
How about benchmark it? A VTOL thing that costs no more than like a BMW 7 Series.
Well, but you'll never own it yourself.
A VTOL that costs the same as Uber Black.
Yeah, you're never going to own it yourself.
As an Uber Black ride.
Autonomous fleet of VTOL.
We can leave on the Embarcadero and get to Oakland Airport for the same cost or less, or plus or minus.
No, God no. I'll take the under on that.
Yeah,
I'll bet you a lot of money. I'll bet you all.
Here we go. Here we go. You said decades. Pick a number. He'll take the under, I'm sure.
You'll take the under.
Well, we'll
Well,
see.
I mean, if
You have
if
to-
you're
you
saying
have to
that
set the
day,
line.
20 years.
Okay, 20 under.
I'm taking the under too.
I'll
What,
hit the
what do
under
we bet?
hard. How much are we betting?
What are we betting?
The chunk of one signal that I own. No, I want the
Oh,
cash before
done.
that. No,
Oh,
it takes too long.
oh, yum,
It takes-
yumskies.
that's 2 decades. I have to wait 2 decades. Well,
Okay. Hold on a second.
I'll
I'm going to have to wait 2 decades to get paid. It takes long.
It does take too long.
Yeah.
It does take too long. Yeah. But we could put the clip on YouTube, and we can make a smart contract with Libra _.
And to be also, what do you mean by a VTOL aircraft? I mean, a helicopter in some sense would kind of
An
qualify.
electric helicopter.
Oh, it has to be electric now.
Of course.
Yeah.
All the
Okay.
VTOLs are electric. They can't really, if they were, like a
They're not all
quadcopter.
electric. Okay, right.
Like one of those quadcopters.
Okay, you're going
you
to
know.
that, right.
Like, the 20
You know what
under,
we're talking
I win.
about.
Just give me the money now. I already won.
Yeah, we win.
We already won.
We totally win.
I don't remember what we bet last time on the show. I think it was like 10, 11 years.
I just need to have somebody go through all of them. All right. Other topics. Is it frothy? Is it a bubble? Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
of course.
like-
But the music's still playing, so I'm going to keep
In
dancing.
the last,
Listen, if the buffet's open, I'm eating. I'm sorry. No, I don't need a buffet. It's too gross. But if the music's playing and the cops haven't broken up the party yet, I'm going to keep investing.
you heard what Bill said on Bill did a 20-minute VC podcast.
I heard it.
And he's Bill. This is Bill Gurley, the Bill
Yeah.
Gurley we play poker with.
Bill
who is like
Gurley
the
said-
cold water Bill Gurley. He's like,
Howdy.
it's getting out of control, and he's like, the music's playing. His quote was even better. It's like basically the secret to not getting killed is to not give up and to have the most fun at the end of the party. Just rage into the very end. Of the
Yeah, I
party.
think you just have to go for it at the end of the party, Bill Gurley. I'm going to just kick some ass and shoot my 6-shooter in the air. Yeehaw!
When Bill Gurley says that, we're in for some crazy.
Bill Gurley's on the podcast story. He's on the 2 podcasts recently. Okay, so we know that's a bubble. Trade war with China for tech, I think, is something we should talk about.
Yeah, I mean,
Huawei is going to be allowed to buy our technologies. Trump was flip-flopping on that. He called them very dangerous. He said it was the biggest long-term competitive threat, and now we're going to let them into the United States. Is this crazy? I think it's insane. Why would you are we going to let them be our critical infrastructure?
Because no one else is building it. There's a massive 5G gap in the United States. They're not building the hardware. Where else are we going to buy it from?
and the regulators basically prevented the proper approach to 5G, which was to basically cut off all the entrenched interests and like reformat how we basically deal with like our the mid band. And instead, they're like, no, we're going to make them go in the high bands, which doesn't work nearly as well. It doesn't go through walls, doesn't go long distances. It's like, and in China, they're like, no, let's just do what we should do, which is like use the mid band for 5G. And so the
So we've got to start over in the United States and not have 5G for a little while.
I mean, it's
right?
it's very unclear how this is going to play out, but like, I wouldn't bet against Huawei.
I gotta tell you something. I'm not like a crazy nationalistic guy. I mean, this is the greatest country in the world. But
You should say that in the Trump
Which
accent.
is moderate. Yeah.
okay, greatest country in the world, and we're winning.
That's pretty good, Jason. That's pretty good.
He's really good at it.
All right,
Where's your MAGA hat?
Little Rocket
There's
Man.
one.
I'm gonna stop by. You may have heard of a place.
He's a good friend now. He got
My
called a
good
friend.
friend. You may have heard of a place, DMZ, the Donald Military Zone. Okay, I'm gonna be in town. Maybe you want to stop by.
Terrified.
Terrifying.
I'm terrified.
There's a company I'm more worried about than Huawei from China. Anybody want to take a guess? They're already here. Take it easy there. You're not on the show. Look at this. I got the engineers who want to take a guess. Take it easy back there. What company is at scale already and ready to do mass surveillance and is already doing mass surveillance of Americans?
TikTok.
Correct. We've got tens of millions of Americans using TikTok. We have to kick TikTok out of this country and ban it. This is a message to Donald Trump. TikTok is in the pockets of tens of millions of Americans. They spent something in the order of hundreds of millions of dollars promoting it. Who do you think has the keys to TikTok? The Chinese government.
Communists.
The communists. I don't think we can call them communists anymore.
No.
What do they refer to themselves as?
It's the Chinese Communist Party still in power.
Okay,
there,
so the
but-
Chinese Communist Party,
Capitalist communists.
the capitalist communist hybrid, now has 30, 40, 50 million Americans, their cameras, their location, their microphones. Yet we cannot have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google in China. We must, Mr. Trump, President Trump, this is a message to President Trump. We must ban TikTok. It is a secure, I'm not joking. This is a DEFCON 4. Is there a 5 in DEFCON 5?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I think there's DEFCON 5.
This is DEFCON 4.5. We're getting there. We have to ban TikTok until we are allowed to have our own surveillance state in China. Thank you. This is the end of the message. I'm Jason Calacanis, and I support this message. What do you think of my theory that we should kick out TikTok?
I mean, who the hell's on TikTok? Is it actually anyone that presents a national security interest? Anybody?
Well, look at this. We have 3 interns in the room and a millennial.
And they're Chinese spies?
Who has TikTok on their phone? Raise your hand. No. No TikTok. Okay, 4 out of 4 Gen Z and millennials don't have it. There's a lot of people with this TikTok. But just generally speaking, should we allow the Chinese startups to have a presence here in social networking, etc., while not being allowed to have a presence over there ourselves? Yes or no?
I mean, I don't agree with Donald Trump on just about everything, but I do think that reformatting the relationship with China was something that should have been done 10 years ago. So that doing it now is about time.
Okay.
But he's caved.
Well, he's incompetent, but like at least we're like moving in the direction of reformatting that conversation, and like the fact that it wasn't dealt with during the entire Obama administration was a complete failure.
Right.
Like that was like, I mean,
They did kick the can down the road.
They did not address the problem. They should have started a long time ago.
But they are funding our films. They did do the last Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
Did they
God,
really?
God bless them.
Alibaba funded the last Mission Impossible. That's why they... I think actually like the merging of media is a very good way to kind of integrate the cultures, but democracy peaked at 54%, and I think we're at 51% of the global population lives in a democracy. I think that's actually the big existential risk right now. We're going to live longer. It's going to be amazing. We have flying cars. But the number of people living in democracy is going down, and the number of people who think it's important to live in a democracy is going down. What is going on? People don't think it's important to live in a democracy. What are we supposed to make of that?
Well, because they haven't seen the alternative. Americans have lived in a bubble for the past 40, 50 years. Yeah. They need to go spend a few weeks living as like a Cuban in Cuba and then see what it's like, or North Korea for that matter.
Socialism is a road to nowhere.
Wow, that's
Thank you,
it's a loaded
Antonio.
term.
That's a great statement.
No, I didn't, for the record, didn't necessarily agree with that statement, but yeah.
Okay. America will never be a socialist country. AOC, Bernie Sanders, never socialist.
But Zach is right. There's a fundamental conflict happening here that we don't talk about because we don't talk about ideology anymore and this like post-religious liberal whatever. There's no there anymore. Yeah. But the reality is like no, there's fundamental distinction between the West and Chinese politics and values, and it's just fundamental. Like Chaos Monkeys, for its Chinese translation, got censored. And I had to just accept it. And I would never accept that in the West. Yeah. Or I just read today that, in fact, Chinese border or whatever control is installing some sort of malware app on your phone. If you enter, I forget, whatever the province with all the conflict with the Muslim minority. Yeah. It's like there's a fundamental difference here that no one wants to talk about because, it's kind of impolite.
I can't believe
it's
that
like it's like the little fart in the room that no one wants to acknowledge. But
you're saying they're forcing you to put Facebook on your
Android
devices?
No.
Yeah,
I thought you said spyware.
Malware.
Malware. Different than Facebook.
It searches your phone for sensitive documents.
Right? No, and it uploads all of your texts and everything to
everything.
The scary thing I saw was there was this like Kai-Fu Lee was showing this video on, it was 60 Minutes or 2020 or Primetime Live he was on talking about his book, and they were showing how they found a journalist in under 5 minutes in like Shanghai or something on the CCTV.
Yeah.
Let alone the environment.
I mean,
we didn't even get to the environment.
Panopticon is here.
Yeah. I mean,
right. I mean, there's
define what Panopticon is.
Oh, so basically, like always being watched by the. It's a Foucault wrote a book back in whatever the hell. Bentham.
Jeremy Bentham.
Oh shit! I get confused. Anyway,
what does Black Mirror mean?
What's that?
What is the Black Mirror thing?
No, but finish the thought. The Panopticon thing is a good
movie. The Panopticon will always be watched, and the technology now makes it possible.
What it literally was that round jail, in which all the prisoners were in windows, and there's one guard in the tower that can see all the jails. Which, by the way, was actually built. Cuba's has a prison that's a literal Panopticon.
Foucault wrote a piece about it. That's the piece I'm thinking about.
No, he did. No, you're right. No, he did. Sorry.
Yes,
you're right.
The thing about the Panopticon that was so revolutionary was that the windows were one way.
Yeah, you never
So
know.
you didn't know what the guard was looking at.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you assumed he was looking at your cell.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look, we carry around the destruction to humanity as we currently know it, which this supercomputer basically is going to take over as we currently know.
Okay, before we all have privacy paranoia, I think in the context of China, it's super scary. In the U.S., we have other technology called the Constitution in courts, in which I think it's less scary. And to model our public policy based on Chinese autocracies would be in some sense just lowering ourselves to a different level when we don't need to have that paranoia in the West, right? There's an advantage to openness. There's an advantage to not being super privacy paranoid.
It does feel like even under Trump's explicit attempt to control the government, to control, the different institutions, we've maintained some level of control over him. Like the Mueller report came out. Mueller's going to testify. It's taking a little bit of time.
I mean, this is still a country of laws and not men. Sure, he's just one guy. They're still institutions. So what?
Yeah.
And they'll survive it.
Will they hold up?
I mean,
Yeah.
But
this is the thing with the New York Times is back to the liberal, insane, hysterical New York Times. They're like, will Trump leave office if he's voted out? And it's like, yeah, I think there's a large
dude, the guy
number.
can't tie his own shoelaces. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
There's a large number of military people who would love to drag his ass out of the White House if he refused to leave.
That's right.
And by the way, he's not spending any time at the White House anyway. The second he goes to Mar-a-Lago, you could just lock him up there and change the locks.
Right.
He's not getting back into the White House.
But the fundamental problem is not actually the breakdown of our infrastructure and our institutions from the top. It's from the bottom, which is I think
that to me is more dangerous.
I think Antonio's correct. It's now that you create a world where anyone can communicate with anyone, anywhere, anyhow, you get these what are fundamentally just frenzies that are built on lies. I mean, you look at the sort of the anti-vaccine frenzy, which is built on a lie that's been disproven a long time ago, but there are people in America who will fight and die. They will let their children die from heinous deaths. They will take that risk because they believe a lie. So imagine if you take that and you just change it a little bit and say, okay, the people in Northern California have decided they no longer want to have anything to do with the rest of America, and they come together using this phone. Violence comes out of that one way or another, and I don't think that the U.S. political system and cultural system is designed to deal with that type of violence, and so it will build on itself. And I think Antonio's right about this. Is the fear is not of our institutions at the top. It's the breakdown of order.
Yeah, and listen, they voted Trump in. So I was in Australia a couple of weeks ago, and I love it. I'm listening to the morning news, and they're like, Jessica Biel, who's an actress or a model or something, says that people shouldn't get vaccines. What an idiot. Who's listening in America to a model or an actress who's risking her kids' lives? It's a terrible Australian accent. She's a bloody idiot. And literally they're mocking her for being an absolute fool, and anybody who would follow her is a bigger fool. And then the next story, police arrested a man who attacked them with a machete. It was oh my Lord. Oh, and a boomerang. It was some crazy, only in Australia, Florida man story. All right. To sum up, Libra _coin, game changer. Follow at Libra to get your horoscope. Follow at Libra _ to get news about Zuck coin, the Z coin. It's a little frothy, but we're still dancing here in Silicon Valley. And Black Mirror refers to your smartphone.
TIL.
Today I learned. Thanks for being on the program, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.